more revenues that we have now, we shall focus deliberately on sports by building more stadiums and training facilities. It is good that the higher altitude training center area is now finished. These are just endoso. Jaribu. In Tunga, there are women who are selling beer, local beer. When you come there, you say, somebody will come and say, I want you to fast, I want you to taste fast. It's called a rosa. He drinks here, this is not good. Goes on like that. By the time he has finished 6 rosa, he's drunk and he doesn't buy. With our growing economy, we shall do much more for sports. It is good, therefore, that the East African countries together put in a bid for AFCON, the continental football competition of 2027. Apart from Nambole and Nachivubo, we need more world-class stadiums to be built. It does not matter whether they are government or private, as long as they are in Uganda. On the side of the music, the Attorney General and the Minister of Gender need to resolve the issue of the copyrights. It is not fair not to protect ownership of Okuhimba. Okuhimba is the Nyankore word for composing songs. That is how we shall be able to create a big economy by doing the 4 tiers, the ones that I mentioned. We shall be able to create a big economy that is able to accommodate our expanding population. In 1810, the UK had a population of 10 million people. A priest by the names of Alfred Malthus started pushing views that the population in the UK was too big, etc. The UK has now a population of 70 million people that is many times more prosperous than that of Malthus's time. What happened? It was the metamorphosis of the society and the economy into a middle-class, skilled-working society. You cannot have peasants producing younger peasants on increasing the fragmented agricultural plots, and you think that you are not an enemy of your country if, as a leader, you do not see this and combat it. So to sit here as leaders of whatever we call ourselves, like I was watching our leaders in the 1960s, and we were telling them about these things that time. You people, you go abroad, because even in the colonial times, I remember even in 1955, they would take our chiefs. The British would take our chiefs to England for study tour. But when I was in the school system in the mid-60s and I was reading, I had not gone abroad myself, but we were reading. I started asking these people, you go abroad and you see what's happening there. Why don't you tell us when you come back? To copy. You go and see progress, you come here and you maintain backwardness in your own people. You supervise. oversight role. You are oversighting backwardness. And you have no problem with that. God will not like it. In the cattle corridor, you were there the other day, you the MPs, you were there in the cattle, you saw in Ngoma. People have nice houses. And income, even when the infrastructure is not there. You saw the road from very bad. The road is not good, but the people have income. So therefore, every leader who is calling himself a leader, even these religious leaders, the cultural leaders like these who are here, please, if you don't see the importance of metamorphosis is a biological process in insects. Insect starts as an egg, the egg hatches and it becomes a caterpillar. Caterpillar changes and it becomes a pupa. Then it becomes a mature butterfly. It's called in biology metamorphosis. That's the same with society. We must be clear that we work for social metamorphosis of African societies, because that's where the problem is. The middle-class women who live in the town here, they don't carry women or children on their back. You don't find tying children in the back there. Mama Janet here has never carried children on her back. Even when we were in exile, we were pushing our children in these small wheelbarrows. How can you have a society? You have got a few people where the children are being pushed in those small, whatever they are, those small vehicles, the piped water, using gas cookers, using electric cookers. Then you have your people in the fire. This is not acceptable. It's a betrayal. And we say we are leaders. Excellency, right honorable this one, right honorable that one. You cannot have peasants producing younger peasants on increasingly fragmented agricultural plots, and you think that you are not an enemy of your country if, as a leader, you do not see this and combat it. We should not be leaders into futurelessness to our people. You can see in Latin America, people are running away from Latin America. They walk on foot to go to America. And yet Latin America is one of the richest parts of the world in terms of natural resources. But the problem is the leadership. In the US, they had leaders who could think about how to transform their country. What stimuli in South America? Busy with other things. Africa should not be like that. Education. I'm about to finish, don't worry. I have another like 10 pages or something. Because you are the ones who invited me. The NRM government introduced UPE and USE programs in order to ensure that no child of school-going age misses out on schooling on account of school fees. These programs were created to provide free education, especially for the poor families that cannot afford to pay the school fees. It is therefore unacceptable for school authorities to demand fees from the poor parents. Government will not tolerate this practice. Education must be totally free in government schools. The local leaders must enforce this when we give them renewed orders after an internal review to find out what has been the obstacles hitherto. We are going to review and issue fresh orders. Once these fresh orders are given, please, I don't expect any deviation from what we shall tell you to do. The literacy rate is currently 76%, while overall school enrollment is at 85%. The demand for free primary and secondary education has increased significantly, which is overwhelming the current educational infrastructure. Part of the problem is that private schools have increased school fees, making government schools more attractive. To meet the increase in demand for free education, government is now rehabilitating the primary schools and the traditional government secondary schools. These include 18 secondary schools such as St. Peter's College, Tororo, St. Henry's College, Kitovu, Masaka, Mvara SS, Arua, Nabsusa Girls School, Kampala, Kabarega Secondary School, Masindi, Nabumari High School, Mbale, Namasagari College, Kamuli, and many others. In addition, government is constructing and equipping secondary schools with laboratories and completing the construction and upgrading of technical vocational institutions in Bushenyi, Ruwero, Lira, Mbale, Nyamtanga, Ruentanga, Kabaramaido, Butareja, Sese, Kitugum, and Kariro, among others. The construction of 115 seed secondary schools in the sub-counties which do not have these schools at the moment will continue in the next financial year. To improve school learning and accountability in the government-supported schools, the following will be undertaken starting next financial year. Strengthen the link between education and socio-economic transformation by promotion of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in education, research, and incubation. Enhancing the technical capacity and skills to support industrial growth, especially manufacturing. Electronic tracking of enrollment, dropout, and retention, and identifying learners, teachers, and institutions using ICT capabilities. Improving the overall staffing levels in the schools. The development of a complete national vocational qualification framework. With our oil money, we shall be able to complete our targets of a government primary school per parish and a government secondary school per sub-county. The railway, the electricity, technical and science education, as well as some national roads, will be the elements our oil money will deal with. I intend to meet with the Petroleum Authority and the oil companies to harmonize so that we do not miss the target of 2025 as the first oil date. Because I don't want this Petroleum Authority to delay our program with petty things. What is this one now? Local content. I don't know. Let's start. Health. Over the last 3 years, since the outbreak of COVID-19, government has strengthened health systems. This has included equipping regional and national referral hospitals, and 225 health center 2s have been renovated and upgraded to health center 3s. In addition, we have strengthened the capacity of the country in vaccine development. For the government to be able to sustainably improve health services, emphasis will be placed on transforming the health care from predominantly curative to preventive through, 1, timely supplies of drugs to address stockouts as well as provision of relevant medical equipment, prevention and control of communicable diseases through immunization, operationalizing Mulago Super Specialized Hospital and expediting the construction of the Ruboa Specialized Hospital, all existing health center 4s and health center 3s, strengthening the supervision and accountability role of the regional technical supervisory structures, emphasizing through radio programs the importance of nutrition, hygiene, etc., and malaria prevention through killing the mosquitoes and the use of treated bed nets. Strengthening security and good governance. Uganda's borders remain secure, save for the spillover effects occasioned by activities of negative armed groups in eastern Congo and South Sudan. I wish to assure Ugandans and investors that Uganda is a secure and peaceful country. The recent isolated incidents of misuse of firearms and killing of innocent people is being handled with immediate response. These include, among others, strengthening the capacity of security agencies to address emerging security threats, addressing discipline issues of security personnel in the Uganda People's Defense Force and the Uganda Police and Uganda prisons, enhancing the security infrastructure to detect crime before it happens, and addressing the welfare of personnel in security uniforms. The ability to manage a huge pre-announced event like the recent Martyrs' Day without any insecurity incident, while the terrorists are still running around in neighboring countries such as Congo, Somalia, etc., demands salutations to our security personnel, weaknesses here and there notwithstanding. An event like Martyrs' Day, which is pre-announced, is a big magnet for terrorists. They would love to come and cause trouble there. And they plan, but we don't allow them. So while we quarrel with our security people, they are really miles away from many of the groups in the world. There are a few weaknesses here and there. Otherwise, an event like this one, pre-announced, we are following groups in Congo, in what, planning to, you don't know how many of them are in prison now, who would want to come and kill people during an event like this one of millions of people who gather in a pre-announced huge event. So while we criticize our security people, but we should also appreciate. Anti-livestock theft and disarmament operations in Karamoja. The government has enhanced troop levels and combat capabilities in Karamoja to combat cattle theft. Disarmament operations, codenamed Operation Usalama kwa Wote, remains on course. A total of 124 guns with 1,023 rounds of ammunition have been recovered since January 2023. Similarly, an estimated 4,771 stolen livestock were recovered and handed over to their rightful owners. At bilateral level, Uganda and Kenya entered a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in defense and security, which was signed in April 2022. The agreement provides for concurrent disarmament operations in both countries. There has been mistakes and some corruption in the disarmament in Karamoja. I'm now in direct touch with the raiders. The raiders came and met me. They looked for me, and I met them. So please don't arrest me that I am aiding and abetting the raiders. But these young people have their own issues. That issue is not so difficult to deal with. There have been so many mistakes by our own people. I'm now in direct touch with the raiders. Some have already come out. They came and I took them around. They visited all these places. They were putting on suits. When they arrived back in Kotiro, everybody could not recognize them. Totally changed. Some have already come out, and others seem to be ready to come out. The corrupt elements in the army that stole the money of the vigilantes will be punished. And so will all the corrupt that undermined the total peace we had achieved in Karamoja between 2007 and 2018. Because 2007, 2018 was total peace in Karamoja. Everybody agrees. Then what happened? It was destabilized by mistakes of mainly our people, civilian and army. The Turkana of Kenya, those are also another problem. The Turkana of Kenya must stop entering Uganda with guns. And I do not want to hear even one incident of those people again raiding in Uganda if they want to stay here. All the points put forward in the recent executive order, I gave an executive order recently dealing specifically with the cattle rustling, must be fulfilled. These other clans of Karamoja, I think I will be able to bring them back because I'm already in touch with all these groups. The Dodoth, the GA, the Matheniko, the Bokora, Pian. Now, the ones where we need to collaborate with Kenya are the Turkana. But we shall do it. They will stop, otherwise. They even killed our geologists. 3 of our geologists were killed. I want those who killed the geologists to be brought back. They brought back the guns, but not the killers. I want the killers. But we also have a problem with our Pokot. Our Pokot, there's a man called Rolem. Have you heard of him? He must be around here. If you see him, inform the police. But Lorem, and who is the girl representing Pokot now? Amudat, who is the girl? Can I see how she looks like? Where is that girl? Come and I see you. I have not seen you. There was one who was shooting at Chankwan the other year. That was one of them when we were in the shooting the other year. She's not here. She has gone to raid.
Yes, she's not feeling well.
She's what?
She's not feeling well. She can't be here today.
Oh, I hope she has not gone to raid. Now, the Pokot, our Pokot here, must not continue to steal from the other clans and take the cattle to Kenya. They should stop. Because I'm going to concentrate on them. But Lorem, they are my good people. Those you tell them that the old man, you saw him, and he's saying that you should stop. Lorem is here. Oh, you come on the microphone and they see how you look like. Where is Lorem? Come on the Uganda and see how you look like. According to the speaker, you are not supposed to say anything because the speaker said, oh, Lorem is now very fat. How do they greet in the Pokot?
Supai. Supai.
Sufai?
Yes, to the male. Then the female, you say Takwenya.
Oh, Takwenya.
Yes.
Takwenya like
Sabei.
Okay,
Yeah.
now you have heard my message. Please help us.
I will do that, Your Excellency, immediately after the budget speech.
Thank you.
I will go and mobilize them.
Thank you. Operation Shuja in DRC. Since the launch of the joint FADC UPDF operation, codenamed Operation Shuja, in November 2021, a total of 109 SMGs, 5 light machine guns, 3 RPG tubes have been recovered. 508 ADFs, combatants, have been put out of action, killed. 50 captured alive, 9 abductees rescued, and 20 defectors received. In March 2023, UPDF put out of action 29 ADF rebels in Toroko district and recovered SMGs. They had invaded Uganda from Congo. The East African Community Heads of State Conclave, held in April 2022, resolved to establish and deploy the East African Community Regional Force to pacify Eastern Congo. Uganda has contributed a battle group to that regional force. The recent deployment of the East African Force, augmented by diplomatic efforts from the regional states, will address the security challenges posed by instabilities in Eastern Congo. Security forces acts of sabotage in the form of vandalism, targeting electricity and water infrastructure. Security forces have arrested 15 key suspects in connection with masterminding vandalism of electricity and water infrastructure in central Uganda. Key among them is the so-called Colonel Mwonge, leader of a subversive group called Uganda Defense Forces. The arrests also targeted elements within Umeme and a network of scrap dealers. The operations have since recovered over 300 tons of assorted electricity equipment. This vandalism is done by haters of the NRM, inspired progress in Uganda. They don't want to see progress. They feel very unhappy when they see these electricity wires. They thought Uganda would not come up. So we are going to be very harsh with them. It's good we arrested them. They didn't resist, otherwise they would have gone to somewhere prematurely. Those who are involved in this will feel sorry for their bankruptcy. Land and land fragmentation. I wish to reiterate my call against the destructive inheritance practices such as land fragmentation. Over-fragmented land becomes LWD, land with disability. That is why, as back at the elections of 1996, in the NRM manifesto, we talked of the 4 acres model and as the medicine for those who had already fragmented family lands. Hence, the recommendation for the 7 activities of coffee, fruits, pasture for grazing, for zero grazing, poultry for eggs, food crops, piggery and fisher farmers for those near the wetlands. All these are products that can give good money, even if they are done on a small scale. That is why we recommend them. There are, however, other products that the country needs, but can only be done on a big scale. Which are these? They are cotton, maize, tea, sugarcane, beef, tobacco, etc. In fact, you cannot do the 7 without being assisted by these, e.g. maize for all animal feeds, for poultry, cattle, fish, in addition to humans and industry. The NRM has been recommending to you inheritance by shares, emigabo. You do not divide the property itself, but you divide what comes from the property, and you can aggregate your annual share and acquire your own property. Thereby, the family property is not only preserved, but it can be expanded, and moreover, all the shareholders can get their own separate properties from the original family one. Corruption. As regards fighting corruption and improving accountability of institutions, priority will be given to ensuring transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption measures across government systems by implementation of electronic government in especially procurement, health, education, and taxation. Doing things through the computer eliminates these meetings in hotels between government officials and business people, because that's where the corruption is. What are you going to discuss in the hotel? Why don't you send him a message on the computer? That's why e-governance is crucial. It will help. Fast tracking the monitoring the effective implementation of government programs. Strengthening the courts and case management systems through adequate staffing and digitalization. And implementation of other covert and overt efforts in the fight against corruption. As we get near the conclusion, economic priorities of the government in the next financial year. In the next financial year, 2023-2024, the following key strategic areas will be prioritized. Peace and security of person and property, number one. Effective implementation of the parish development model and MUSEVENI. Acquisition of right-of-way and starting the construction of the standard gauge railway, as well as finalizing the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway. Number four, investing in small-scale solar-powered irrigation systems to address climate change and ensure food security and eliminate the erraticness in agricultural production. Number five, constructing transmission lines and power substations. 6, maintenance of both tarmac and manned roads. 7, development of industrial parks to ease manufacturing. 8, support to medical schools and science-based research development. 9, expedite the development of the infrastructure for oil and gas production. 10, capitalization of the Uganda Development Bank and the Uganda Development Corporation. 11, support to information, communication, and technology development. Anti-homosexuality law. Before I conclude and talk about the planned legislative agenda for the coming session of Parliament, I cannot avoid commenting on the noise about the anti-homosexuality law that you enacted and I signed recently. My stand on homosexuality has been repeatedly laid out to all and sundry. It starts with a few questions. Why does somebody become a homosexual? Is it on account of genetic, hormonal, or psychological reasons? Discussions with our doctors and the other African doctors who had a conference with African members of parliament from 22 countries unequivocally led us to conclude that homosexuality is as a result of psychological disorientation at some point in one's life, not genetic and not hormonal, as some of us initially thought. This conclusion that homosexuality is a psychological disorientation gives us a way forward, logically, reasonably, without bias, without what? If somebody is a victim of psychological disorientation, do you criminalize him or her on account of that? Is it logical or fair to do so? The answer is no. Instead, such a person needs assistance to, if possible, overcome his psychological disorientation. I'm glad the MPs agreed with me and clarified this point in the law. Therefore, those who say that the homosexuals will be arrested if they go for medical care, etc., are wrong. The law now says that a homosexual will not be criminalized for merely being so if he or she keeps the being to oneself. What then does the law fight? It fights this homosexual when he or she goes from merely being and starts recruiting other people who are not psychologically disoriented like him or her to be like him by misinforming or bribing them. There, he becomes a criminal and, if convicted, goes to prison for a period not exceeding 20 years. If he goes further and rapes a person, a child, an indigent means a weak person, he commits a capital offense and he faces a maximum sentence of death. This is the law I signed. These are the 3 substantive points. I think there's something missing here. Oh, these are the 3 substantive points. Being is your personal problem. Merely being a homosexual, that you find you are disoriented, you don't like the ones you should like, you like the ones you shouldn't like. Being is your personal problem. Promoting is criminal and qualifies you for prison. Raping qualifies you for a possible death sentence. So you people, when you are arguing with these people, go for the substance. Don't be diverted to these other. Additionally, in Uganda, sex is confidential, even heterosexual sex. Therefore, if a homosexual keeps his being to himself, or confidentially seeks assistance from the doctors or priests, it will not offend this law. I have told our MPs that if there are still some illogicalities in the law, such as forcing employers to know who is a homosexual in the company, or landlords to know which tenants are homosexuals, we shall work to amend them and keep the substance. We should go for the substance, not these other, because I have heard some people talking about that. But I will call our MPs and we'll talk about it. Therefore, doctors and other health workers, providers, should assist those patients who come to them bearing the 3 substantive points in mind. I will arrange a dedicated broadcast on this issue toward the end of June. I will give a whole broadcast on this issue. Now, finally, you're about to be saved from me. I wish to end this address by thanking Parliament for enacting the following legislation during the last session. Out of the 62 bills presented to Parliament on the last State of the Nation address in June 2022, the following bills were introduced and passed. The Companies Bill 2022, the Insolvency Amendment Bill 2022, the Law Revision Bill 2022, the Museum and Monuments Bill 2022, the Physical Activity and Sports Bill 2022, the Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2022, the Small Arms, they are all here. The following 5 were introduced by government in addition to the 62. I think the Speaker had also spoken about those. Now, there are these bills which are ready for second reading: the Employment Bill, the Competition Bill, the Public Service Pension Fund Bill. The following reports, as highlighted in the State of the Nation Legislative Agenda of June 2022, were processed and adopted. They are also listed here. Madam Speaker, it is now my pleasure to declare the 3rd session of the 11th Parliament open. I thank you very much, and hope that the coming session will be fruitful. I thank you.
Thank you so much.
I need 1 minute. I need to. In the morning, I was feeling. Yes, in the morning I was feeling as if I have a slight cold. So I called my medical team, to check corona. They took samples as usual. There's what they call a rapid one. That one was negative. Then there are two which go for deep analysis. One was negative, the other one was positive. So I'm a suspect of corona as I'm standing here. That's why you saw me coming in separate cars with Mama. I said, Mama, please, you use your car. But since I'm here, I will not infect you. I have kept there's a big distance here. So we shall sort out that retro issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for the clear and concise exposition of the government policy in your address and fulfilling your constitutional obligation as per Article 101 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. We take cognizance of the government legislative agenda for the third session, and we do pledge our proven commitment that will make sure Parliament will do what we have agreed today. Your Excellency and honorable members, having listened to your passionate appeal to increase industrialization, I want to put the record clear. This is the Hansard of Parliament, and I want the Hansard to be very clear that in the financial year that we are in, we appropriated 77 billion for Kira Motors. However, the money was used for other purposes. I therefore appeal the line ministers to exercise their political supervisory role. The blame should not come to Parliament. We did our part and appropriated money. Two, the Employment Amendment Bill 2022 and the Competitions Bill were passed by Parliament awaiting assent of the President, so we'll be expecting a scented copy from the President. Honorable members, I want to retaliate on a few things. In the third session of 11th Parliament, we shall reactivate and intensify the monitoring and reporting of attendance of the House sittings by both the members of Parliament and the ministers. This will help us in doing our accountability to the electorates on how effectively we have represented them, both in the House, in the committee, and remember Article 79(1). One of our roles is representation, so we should be accountable to our voters. We need to know where you are, whether you're in Parliament, you're in Kampala, you're where. So the voters need to know where you are. We are going to reactivate the data where you're going to log in for us to know how many members attend the House. The money that is paid to us members of Parliament is taxpayers' money, and we must be able to account for it to avoid becoming corrupt. Honorable members, His Excellency the President will be back here on 15th June 2022 to deliver the budget speech. Sorry. The President will be here on 15th June 2023. I am happy you are alert. The President will be here on 15th June 2023 to deliver the budget speech. We therefore urge you to be here, to know what goes to your electorates, to know how much you've appropriated to your people, and work for this country. And once more, Your Excellency, we want to thank you, even with the condition that you're in, for creating time to come and deliver the state of national address. And we want to thank Mama for accompanying you. On a special note, we want to thank all the invited guests, all the dignitaries that are here, and I want to thank the members of Parliament. And I say all this for God and my country, and God bless you all.
Adjournment.
Honorable Your Excellency and honorable members of Parliament, the House is adjourned to 15th June 2023 at 2 at Kololo grounds.
The anthems.
So good evening. I know it's been 3 hours of that speech, but the president has done speaking to us and addressing the nation on what exactly is the plan, but also holding stock of what happened between 2022 and 2023, this financial year. The achievements have been made, and he also has given directives on what needs to be done. He has touched areas of agriculture, education. He has come to also security, and he has finished it off well by also talking about things that he needs to be able to see. He has given us 4 tiers that he needs to see improved in the next financial year. He has also given projections of what oil and gas would look like, what also the economy should look like, what the financial position of the country should be like. 55.3 trillion shillings is what he talked about there. But also he has given us a speech, an elaborate speech about what he expects from Parliament come 2023, 2024, looking at that. But even as we see off all this, the Speaker will be seeing off the President. They'll be having a photo moment just at a booth here that has the State of the Nation's address. Also, different ministers have had their marching orders. As the President has finished the State of the Nation's address, we also have received the 3rd session of Parliament, and this was the first meeting that is happening. Also, the Speaker has been able to reiterate some of the things that are there, that the database will be put in place, people will be registered as they come into, members of Parliament need to give value for money even as they get into debate on some of these bills. He has also given the legislative agenda of government, especially looking at some of the bills that did not go through this, the 2nd session and the 1st session of the 11th Parliament, and he said, you know what, I need these things to pass. He has said also the anti-homosexuality act that is now there, he will have an elaborate session or broadcast before the end of June to be able to elaborate on this. He has been specific on some things about the Anti-Homosexuality Act, and he says he will give an elaborate session where he talks about some of these things. And he has talked about agriculture, he has talked about, you know, climate change, how it has affected. He has said prices have come down, but the prices of food are still up because of climate change, and he has emphatically put it on irrigation to have some of these things go forward. So from us here at UBC, we're grateful you've spent your evening with us here. My name is Timothy Nyangweso, and from us to you and the tech team that has made sure this happens, God bless you. Have a fabulous week.